Rick, can you hear me? Ah, there you are.
Sorry, I had left it on and didn't realize I had to click on the audio thing. How's it going?
Okay. Glad to see you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just I've been okay. Just a little kind of having some back issues, and
oh, you too.
I think it's just yeah. My lower back very painful. It's not so bad right now, but if you see me kind of grimacing and trying to find a better position.
I realized since April of last year I was in medical emergency for my back. I was full of pain. Like chronic pain has the power to make you forget that you have pain. But at one point I could only sleep 2 hours a night, or I was becoming incontinent. Went to the doctor. Doctor said you're an idiot. And he said, "Oh, so I already had a diagnosis of spondylitis, but it got worse. So I have 3 dead discs right down. They're dead. They've been pitch black for years. It's because of MMA fighting, but I'm good. Problem is, if I'm not standing straight when I'm sitting or standing, because I'm heavy here and my head is heavy like all of our heads, I tend to tilt to the back. So there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the discs that are dead. They're now squeezed out of the vertebra into the central nerve and the sciatica nerve, which means that when I had pain, the doctor tried to use my fingers and he was like, wow. Like he was like, the whole body didn't realize I was blocked. So he gave me corticosteroids and I unblocked. I have a back brace I have to wear all the time when I'm sitting, not on a chair like that. That's okay. But yeah, I realized I was at a he told me you can't know that because you're a man, but it's worse than peridural or giving birth what you had like constantly for a and I was always sleeping. I was not performing at work. I thought it was a pandemic, and no, it's chronic pain. So the danger with chronic pain, that's why you have people going to the hospital. All of a sudden, they're like, you have metastatic cancer to the bone marrow. How did you not notice? Because chronic pain, you get used to it. You're like, 1 week it's better. So you're like, oh, in a few weeks it'll be perfect. But then it comes back, you're like, oh, okay, I must have done something wrong. More rest, more rest. That's the trick. No, go see a doctor. You're not supposed to feel pain.
Okay. Well,
So if you can go see a doctor for your back pain, go for it.
I was thinking it was, just being in the house so much with COVID and
sitting all the time
and not sitting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you're gonna laugh,
but I'm going to listen to you.
Yeah, go see a doctor and the treatment he gave me, he's like, you're young. Like, yeah, you did MMA, yeah. Your blood pressure is great, but you're a smoker. Everything's great. I don't know how you, with your lifestyle, like barely sleeping and always working and partying. But he told me, so since you have all that energy, surgery is extreme because you'll be like that after that. I'll fuse the vertebra, so you'll be, hey, how's it going? Like a wrestler, which could be cool, but whatever. He said the other option is acid hyaluronic, injections in the spine, which with some fluid to make them oily. But there you go. Is like, yeah, it's temporary. But the best solution, since you're 38 and I'm giving you that, I have a personal trainer at Fresh Meadows Presbyterian for 8 weeks to teach me core reinforcement, aka abs. If I have abs, I'll have less pain because I'll be supported. And everybody's laughing. Like the treatment is abs. Everybody's because I wanted to exercise for 5 years and I haven't. And so there you go. My prescription for abs. I didn't know it was possible.
Right. No, that's what I say. I think it's, not getting exercise and being in the house so much. And let me just send this message to Venita.
Sure, I'm just gonna crack open the window. It's a beautiful weather outside. Oh, so there you go. So now I'm relieved.
Yeah.
Oh, like I haven't felt that good in 2 years almost. So
wow.
Yeah, and I realized I was.
I of course have gained the COVID-15. Is right on my belly. And so I think that, between all the sitting, being in the house, the weight gain.
Yeah.
My back is just saying,
Yeah. It's not even like intense exercise, but the simple fact of going outside to buy bread is still something we're not doing anymore. So the body, hey, Venita, is supposed to do those basic activities, walking around, opening a door, going outside, saying hello to somebody. All of a sudden, we're like, don't move the head.
Right.
The virus might see you.
Right.
Hey, Venita.
Yeah.
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Doing fine, and you?
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Well, the gang's all here. Rick and I were just talking about our back pain issues.
Let me open another mic.
So you may see me twisting around, and that's trying to get my spine.
That's why I'm standing up right now, trying to be straight because I can feel it coming back.
Yeah. So, Rick, seeing Venita reminds me. So next week we have a regular week. Where is the agenda? Next week is a regular week. All of chapter 16. That's March 17th. But then the following week, March 24th, should be the end of this book. But Venita has a scheduling conflict on March 24th.
No problem. Can do that the week after.
Yeah, and so that's my question. Do you want to do it the week after, or do you want to try to do it Thursday? Would Thursday that week be better for you, Venita? Yeah.
Thursday of the same week?
Yeah, the March 25th.
Let me see. I'm on my iPad. I can't see my calendar.
Okay.
I'll confirm. Thursday or the week after is fine for me. Either way.
Okay. So so let me know, Venita, and we can do either way. My preference would be to do Thursday the 25th. Because as everyone knows at this point, I'm tired of the coming plague.
Yeah, it's come. It's done. It has come. It has passed. We're done.
Even though, I continue to learn things with every chapter, I'm just not everyone that wants to know too much about any one subject. That's why I'm not a specialist.
The funny part is that
I've had enough.
Since the Ebola chapters, I'm bored. Because during the Ebola chapters, there was a real storytelling of the guys arriving, the pilots getting, get out. The whole atmosphere was insane. And all of a sudden afterwards, it was very bureaucratic. It's like somebody at the editors or the publisher said, hey, we need more science in the second, part of the book, like only science and bureaucracy and whatnot.
I think she herself, as the writer, got bored, and it was just putting too much into one book, and anyway, I'm not going to complain about Laurie anymore. Let's get started. And welcome everyone to Reading for Change, where we are complaining about the book that we're reading, The Coming Plague, Newly Emerging Diseases in a World Out of Balance by Laurie Garrett, which is actually a good book from the perspective of if you just really want to learn about every little infection that every little virus and bacteria and parasite that plagues humanity, then she's got a word on all. It really is full of information, but it's a long book, and I would have more appreciation for it if it were 2 books or 3 books. That's me. Rick?
Yep.
Did I say my name?
I'm not sure.
You froze. That's why. Okay, I was like, what's going on?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes. Now it works. But for a while, I was like, what?
Okay.
Yeah, she helped me.
Oh, okay. It must have been Laurie Garrett. Must have sent some voodoo down on me. I wasn't talking about you, Laurie. I'm Michelle Odom. I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and happy to be here. We are in the last 3 chapters of The Coming Plague. And Rick?
Hi, this is Rick from Queens. Happy to be here.
We're a perky little bunch here, aren't we?
Uh-huh.
Hi, I'm Venita Walker. I'm joining you from Cromwell, Connecticut. Welcome. I said we're a perky little bunch here, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
all right. So, you all can still hear me, right?
Yep, I hear you clearly.
All right. I hate this freezing thing that my system does. Anyway, tonight, let me go ahead and read the summary. Tonight, we're focused on chapter 15, All in Good Haste, Hantaviruses in America. 1993 spike in deaths among young and relatively healthy people in Navajo Nation was the spark leading to the identification of a new strain of hantavirus carried by rodents, now known as Four Corners virus, Muerto Canyon, or Valley of Death. The investigation used the new technology of genetic fingerprinting of viruses, PCR, and helped scientists understand the prevalence of hantaviruses in most of the US and how the viruses may be implicated in conditions as varied as ARDS, kidney disease, and hypertension. The investigation of hantaviruses also prompted scientists to rethink diseases labeled as unknown etiology and allow they may result from infectious agents. Its significance is also in demonstration that things could be done right, that humanity could comprehend and control the microbes if there was the political and scientific will. And as COVID has demonstrated, that is a big if. And as really all of these chapters have demonstrated, that is a big if. So who wants to get us started? What's the most interesting thing you learned?
Well, I didn't really learn much other than the name of the hantavirus that struck the Navajo Nation. It's the same bureaucracy It's the same everything, really. I mean, it just another virus. You know, I wish I could have learned something, but I really didn't. It was just another virus that they're chasing down as usual and going through the bureaucracy, and everybody wants their whoop whoop at the end. And meanwhile, folks are still suffering the process because they have to go through all the political crazy as usual. That's about it.
Well, for me, I didn't know what a hantavirus was. I don't think I've ever heard that terminology before reading this book. And so, you know, now I have a better idea. So that was one thing. I also had no idea that something like high blood pressure might be the result of an infection. So that I found pretty shocking, actually.
Why?
I don't know, because I thought high blood pressure was just either something you inherited or the result of lifestyle, lifestyle factors. Yeah.
But that's the problem with these viruses. They mimic conditions that do not have a viral mechanism of action. You're right. High blood pressure can be a symptom of atherosclerotic cardiovascular diseases, coronary heart disease, which is stroke. And it's due, for example, if you eat red meat day and night for 40 years and smoke and don't exercise, there's a big chance you'll have hypertension, even stroke. The problem is precisely diseases that have a known mechanism of action are, if you have an infectious agent mimicking those symptoms, it's nearly impossible for doctors to realize something's wrong. And for example, that's what happened with COVID and the idea of the flu. It mimics. So that's an infectious agent, but think about people dying of old age. One virus that nobody talks about is the respiratory syncytial virus, RSV. Gives a common cold. But every year, there are about, 50 children in some countries, Western countries, like the UK or France, who die before they're 5 years old of RSV complications, because RSV lead to respiratory complications. So for children with immune compromised systems, preterm, it's a big risk. And RSV is so prevalent that it's like HPV. For years, nobody realized that breast cancer, uterine cancer could be due to one of the most prevalent viruses in the world, HPV, which we all have at one point, either through sexual interaction or just going to the swimming pool. Mm-hmm. So the problem with these viruses is that you have to convince, first of all, physicians to look for it, which means post-mortem, which means, and also, for example, you have a hantavirus and hypertension.
Oh, well, post-mortem. So you're saying they're never going to do that kind of investigatory work while you're alive?
No, because they don't know so we have blood panels. We know exactly what we're looking for. So you have your HbA1c, you have your LDL-C, and you have all the known viruses, influenza, etc. A virus we don't know, we don't have a test for. So when we test people, we see everything except that virus. And again, if somebody has hypertension and the hantavirus, is the hypertension due to his lifestyle and he got on top of that hantavirus that didn't improve the situation? You see, this is where it becomes very complicated. And you can't just go to a family and say, we'd like to autopsy everybody who died of hypertension to see if there's no hantavirus, because you could do that. The CDC does that, but that's only for people who give their bodies to science. So again, it's a small sample and it takes an outbreak. In an area for AIDS is the same thing. Maybe many people died of AIDS before we noticed, but they were dying, of the flu.
Right.
But when very healthy homosexual men very healthy and young. We're suffering from the disease we see in immunocompromised people, 40, 50. This is where Fauci and others say, wait, what? This is strange. So this is the problem with diseases. And I think that's the problem also with COVID. It's always too late when we realize this is not something we know. So.
Right.
Well,
right.
It would be impossible
So
for doctors.
that was the interest. Go ahead, Benita.
It would be impossible for doctors to investigate, even if I did go to the doctors and not feeling very well. There's so many diseases and they all mimic a lot, all of them have similar symptoms. They mimic each other. So where would they even know where to start?
You know, there's a big theory.
Unless they have seen other people in the office. Now, if there was 3 other people coming to the office, then it might spark some curiosity. But if you just walked in off the street, you know what I'm saying, to your doctor, it's like, they don't really have the time to do investigative work, even half the time, even if something was there.
And also, don't forget, most of them don't have time to train regularly. Science evolves. And we all know the doctors who studied when in the 1950s, like 60s, 20 years ago, that were telling us, it's in your head.
Yes.
Remember those? And then the new generation was like, we're going to do a blood test. Wait, doctor, 5 minutes. Okay, good. We'll do the blood test. I'll be back. Come back in 6 weeks. What do I have? We went from this extreme to another one. So.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a major theory in cancer, for example. What causes cancer? It's like the egg and the chicken. And the chick. Who came first? Is it inflammation that causes cancer? Or is cancer causing inflammation of the tissues? And this question, if we can solve it, it's the cure to cancer. But right now, we don't even know which one comes first. You know?
Well, viruses can trigger, I can see where virus can trigger high blood pressure or cause high blood pressure because viruses can cause lupus.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know how I got it. They don't know how I got it. It could be environmental. It could be some spray.
Could be
as
genetic.
simple as walking through air freshener. I don't use it, but just walking through it. It could have been, it could have been anything.
Do you have family from the Caribbean or any islands in the tropics? Ancestors, for example, Guadeloupe, Martinique, Jamaica, or even the Indian Ocean.
No, great grandfather from the Mediterranean.
Because, you know, we notice lupus, the prevalence is mostly in populations living on the equator or tropical islands, wherever the place in the world. So we always try to figure out, is it related to the sun, to exposure to the sun? Well, in that case, why not Sahara? And why tropical islands? It's a real issue. So they don't know if it's because there was one nation in the past that developed that genetic flaw and it was transmitted through history, or if it at one point is due to the environment, like you said, or if it's a mix of both.
Yeah,
and it's so complicated. Autoimmune diseases are very mysterious.
Well, that's why they call them the silent diseases, because, you know, you look at people and you think they're great, you know, they look fine.
And they have a flare up.
Well, even if they don't have a flare up, you don't know. But that was just a question that came to mind, or a statement I wanted to make to Michelle, was that I can see it that's why I wasn't surprised, because, you know, there are people that have taken our vaccines, the new vaccine, that have caused lupus.
Well, look at cancer. In 1984, what was their name? The Japanese and the French and the American, they came up with a theory that everybody laughed at, that cancer was caused by potentially a virus. Well, guess what? They got a Nobel Prize about 7 years ago. They're the reasons, they're behind the CAR T technology in cancer, which is they figured out that viruses could contribute to inflammation, leading cells to become crazy and mutate against these viruses in insane ways and then stay as tumors. HPV works that way, by the way. So it's fascinating to see that we should always look for an external source for the disease and stop saying it's in you. It's natural to you. Because yes, maybe it is, but here's the thing about DNA. DNA tells you your potential, but it's RNA that tells you if the potential has been triggered by the environment. So for example, you have white people, when they go back south, they become very dark skinned and don't have sunburns. Guess what's coming back to express itself through their DNA, that they're not as white as they thought, because, DNA is a potential, but the triggering comes from the environment. And same thing for, like, somebody never does exercise. Even if your DNA tells you have the potential to be the best warrior ever, if you never train, you won't become that warrior and won't express the RNA. Autism, same thing. That's why the test of, the DNA test for cancer or behavioral differences is not the best thing to do, because it tells you might, but it doesn't tell you that you might not as well. It doesn't tell you the truth. It doesn't tell you will have cancer. It tells you may have cancer. Yeah, okay, I get it. So, but no, it's fascinating.
So that to me, is really one of the significant points being made in this chapter, that this was kind of a watershed moment. It's really like, I guess, the first time they're using that genetic fingerprinting, PCR technology, and they're really coming to remember. We reached a point in this book, the age of optimism. We can control all disease now, with vaccines and antibiotics. And so this outbreak of hantavirus in 1993 and the use of the PCR is really like another watershed moment, where they're understanding that there's a lot of things that have been labeled as
natural history diseases. Unknown etiology.
Yeah, and so this is like the beginning of starting to get a handle on. We do have a way, of starting to track these things down, if there is the political, and scientific will to do it.
I kind of disagree with what they say here, because here's the lesson I took from all the book. No, we cannot. That's the age of optimism again. We cannot stop that, despite all the political and scientific will in the world. First of all, because we're human, finite, and we don't understand the whole of nature. We have no idea how viruses appear in some places. It's so complex, so many factors involved. And also, do we really want that? It's a real ethical question in medicine. For example, we are this close to giving birth to children that are 4 months old in the womb. Should we do it? We are this close of being able to extend life beyond 140, 50 years. Should we do it? Should we at all attempt try to preserve life, or accept the fact that maybe diseases are essential to life? And by that, I mean what? Without diseases, there is indeed no control of animal populations. There's a balance. We destroyed that balance. And now we're stuck with the problem. That is, we have no herd immunity left of these ancient diseases our ancestors faced. We have vaccines, but vaccines take time and money, and not everybody has access to them. Look at this COVID wars right now with all the nations, Russia trying to get Africa, China, and it's a mess. What I'm saying is that in the end, the real question I have is that this book does not address another threat, one that we've noticed over the years through climate change. The ice melting in the tundra in the north of Russia. We are seeing megaviruses, so 50 times their size, appearing that were for dinosaurs. We have absolutely no evolutionary way. It's been 60 million years to fight them. And on top of everything, the worst threat we're facing, the question about going to Mars. How long should we quarantine people going to Mars? Because what if there was life and there's a dormant pathogen? I have a lot of horror movies about that, but it's a real threat. And there's real discussions right now when people brought back stones from the moon, you had scientists fighting against the NASA to ask them not to bring them back because so.
And I heard on a podcast recently that there's a company that I don't know if they're selling hotel stays or a walk, but they're building this spacecraft that is going to take people to outer space. It's $5 million a seat.
Okay.
I'll
pass.
It takes me
I have other stuff to do.
It takes me back, Venita, to Octavia Butler, because she was telling us
$5 million.
This is where we're going.
Well, yeah, it's a form of entertainment, really. It's a form of entertainment for bored white people that have $5 million. Okay. No, I'm just being honest with you. It's like, what else is there to do? I have all this money. Some lunatic came with the idea that we can have vacation on Mars or on the moon. I'm in. I got $5 million. I'm not talking about the big tax break they gave the wealthy. Hell, they saved $5 million. They're bored.
No, but here's where it's funny. They're actually paying a membership to a gym for $5 million because none of them are going to space without proper training, because you're getting in your stomach when you take off about 12 G's.
Yeah.
Which is like, you will puke. You know the way they never show astronauts when they exit the capsule? They peed on themselves. They shat their pants and they puked because they took several G's entering the atmosphere.
Yeah,
and they're trained athletes.
Yes.
Wow. And that happened, the first tourist of space, that Russian or American or Canadian, I don't know, a rich guy, he had trained. He gets in. All the astronauts had to stop him because this idiot was so excited. He did this. You have no gravity. You're going to float, and when you hit the wall, your nose and your head will explode like you hit a wall at full speed. So they had to stop him. Like, dude, you're training.
Yeah.
You paid $30 million.
Yeah. But no, there are a lot of ethical questions. That didn't seem to be the focus, really. I mean, she raises some things throughout the book, but it's not a big focus of her book. But science is actually challenging us with a lot of ethical stuff. Let's want to look at question 4. So I didn't see, and it's not that I read the chapter, so closely, but I didn't see her anywhere in this chapter discuss how how humans get hantaviruses. So I found this chart that suggests that it's airborne. But it was just curious to me because she does include that in almost every other chapter, whatever disease she's talking about. So I don't know, again, if she was just tired by the time she got to this chapter, that she's not following like a particular outline that would have her hit the key points on each, chapter. So she just missed it. But I was wondering if maybe they didn't know in 1993.
Yeah, I think they didn't know.
Viruses. You think they didn't know?
The CDC. No, I'm looking at the CDC, and what happened is pretty much it needed full genetic the decryption capabilities because we're talking about. So now they know hantaviruses. So they renamed the disease officially in the world. Hantaviruses are a family of viruses spread mainly by rodents and can cause varied disease syndromes in people worldwide. Infection with any hantavirus can produce hantavirus disease in people. Hantaviruses in the Americas are known as New World hantaviruses and may cause hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS. Other hantaviruses known as Old World hantaviruses are found mostly in Europe and Asia and may cause hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome. Each hantavirus serotype has a specific rodent, host species, and is spread to people via aerosolized virus that is shed in urine, feces and saliva, and less frequently by a bite from an infected host. The most important hantavirus in the United States that can cause HPS is the sin nombre virus, spread by the deer mouse. CDC.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, no, I was curious about that, because, you know, I mean, I couldn't imagine, are we touching things that the mice have run over, you know, but aerosol, that's pretty scary.
If a mouse pees in your apartment, you'll get it.
Well, does anyone realize that, you know, when I was younger, I remember, of course, people live in the city. I don't care if you live in $100 million brownstone. You got some roaches.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They have to constantly spray. Everybody spray for roaches.
That's why you kill them, because they carry viruses.
Right. There's plenty of mice. But in the city, a lot of children suffer from respiratory viruses. It doesn't have to be Hanta, but in general, they have a lot more instances of
lice,
mice. So they get more triggers with asthma, all kinds of upper respiratory viruses. So it's very easy to see inhaling the feces or urine of rodents can cause a problem.
Have you ever taken a good microscope and look into your carpets?
No, I don't know. No.
Exactly. This is why you have to clean up even when it's not dirty. People don't realize dirt is full of animals that don't like the human body to feed off your skin. Literally, people don't realize that.
I'm like your bed. I mean, if you'd be surprised, your bed.
You have to clean your stuff.
A microscope in your bed and your mattress. Some people never clean their mattress. Never, vacuum it. Or
you know, when you go outside, you see people leaving a mattress, and you're like, "That's a lot of marks."
Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna give away a mattress. Like, I don't think so.
That's nasty. Thank you.
Even your mattress cover, you have to keep it clean. Throw in the wash machine, every so often. But I kind of bleach it, every couple of weeks. Just bleach it.
I know. There's too many stuff, but that's another thing. To what extent are some like Lyme disease? For years, I remember as a kid in France, they said it's a psychosomatic disease. People are pretending they have psychological problems. And it took literally, it's just been 5 or 6 years they've been recognized. For years, they were taught, they were taking antidepressants.
For what condition?
Lyme disease, because nobody had identified that ticks were involved yet. Imagine you're suffering from symptoms that are indeed similar to those of depression. Aches, pain, low energy. You're crazy. Here's a pill. Unfortunately, not true.
And I don't wish ill on anybody, but I have to admit, I'm kind of, my interest is piqued in hearing people describe some of the symptoms, the mental fog kind of thing going on with long COVID. Because, that's the kind of thing I have been dealing with for a long time. And, I feel like when I'm talking to my doctors, I'm talking to the wall,
Because they have a grid. If it doesn't fit in the grid, it's not important. And there's a funny story about that. I always tell us that doctor who was really performing really well at the ER. He was like this close to becoming a full doctor, and he would do 30 patients a day, and he would break all records. But there was this stubborn patient, this old lady who would not get better. And his mentor told him, take 5 minutes to speak to her. About what? Anything. Talk to her. So he didn't quite understand why, but he said, what do you have to lose? And he talked to her, and she started ranting about her grandkids, that they were so nice, always traveling, and that they brought her back some plates from Peru that she had been using because she lost her grandchildren for 2 years. The plates were made of lead. Without that conversation, he would not have identified she suffered from Saturnism. There you go.
Wow.
So medicine is not a science. The Greeks called it an art, a technique. Art means not art in the sense of painting, but art in the sense of, being a carpenter, the artisan, somebody who knows how to work matter. And then you have science, which is philosophia. Sophia. So, it's just that they people don't understand that medicine is not supposed to be a science of how to cure people, but how to care for people. You cannot always cure people.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
For most things,
if somebody is addicted to drugs and doesn't get better, it's not about, let's give up on that person. It's about until that person dies, you have to take care of that person, despite all the relapses and all the problems. Healthcare is not about victory.
I am selfishly hoping that as more people experience this long COVID and are describing, the phenomena to their doctors and scientists, that it leads to some of these breakthroughs that we're talking about, throughout this book, because what's that thing that I took that one time, Venita, that you tell me I'm not allowed? Is it steroids?
Steroids.
Something I had
prednisone,
illness going on, and so my doctor gave me some of that. I felt better than I had felt in 30 years.
I know.
To the point, Venita will tell you, I was around begging on my desk, what I gotta do, man? I need to get some more.
Wait.
Of course,
you were relieved for the first time since your symptoms on carbon monoxide. Wait. So carbon monoxide might have given you illness for some time, but maybe it revealed something deeper. Have you checked for autoimmune diseases? Because prednisone and cortisone is good to reduce inflammation.
Yeah, no, I do have an autoimmune. I have a liver disease.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
But so a part of the kind of mental fog symptoms that I have are associated with the liver condition. So I take medicine that makes my liver do whatever the liver is supposed to do, but it doesn't help with all of this.
Yeah, but then if you use cortisone to reduce the liver, it's counterindicated.
Right.
But you have a fog. You said you have a fog, but that shouldn't be so hard for doctors to understand, because there are many diseases that cause fogs. Lupus is it's known by doctors to cause fogs. I'm a pretty, with the person, but when I get very sick, or when I was very sick, and even sometimes now, but even more so then, things would just go out your head. When I say out your head, I'm like, your brain just completely emptied out. You have to stop. You have to stop. Like, I'm like, all of a sudden you're thinking about something, and then you just stop, because not only can you remember what you're thinking about, but there's nothing there. You understand what I'm saying? It's almost like this cloud where there's actually nothing there. I mean, you can look over here at the book as you're trying to remember what you were thinking about. You can look over at the phone, but phone does not register. It's like nothing. That's a scary feeling. And that's why I tell you sometimes.
My symptoms are not that bad. My cognitive issues are not that bad.
Well, no, it doesn't last. It doesn't last a long time. But it doesn't have to be a long time if you're in the middle of something important. It's long enough. If I'm sitting there trying to write an outline for the book group,
and then disappear.
Well, that has happened. And that's why, sometimes you don't make commitments, and I like what I do, because I have that luxury of stopping and regrouping and, getting back to what I was doing. But if I was out in corporate, I don't have the luxury all the time of stopping and regrouping. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because it may take a minute. It doesn't last for days, but it can last long enough where, depending on the situation, you don't have that luxury of things going out your head. I mean, you're in the middle of a corporate meeting. Could you imagine in the middle of a corporate meeting, and you're making a presentation?
I do that a lot.
Yeah, I know.
All of a sudden,
But I pretend it's genius. I pretend that my brain goes so fast instead of the fog, and I'm like,
well, of course you can come up with something. Yeah, I'm just so genius that you know what?
I need a minute to calculate everything again.
10 minutes to calculate.
Because, I'm like a math machine. And then somebody's like, 2 by 5. Too intense.
But no, that prednisone is the only thing that I have taken, I'm telling you, in 30 years, where it's like I have made a conscious decision to hold on to the memory of what it feels like to feel good, which because I didn't imagine it would go on this long. But that prednisone is the only thing, but they won't give it to me. It's a dangerous drug. So they won't give it to me on a regular basis. The mental fog,
they should check the blood pressure, not for high blood pressure, for low blood pressure. Also, the nervous system, they should check if there's nothing messing with your nervous system, because mental fog, usually it's either blood pressure that's not strong enough, so you're like, nah, or tired, etc., or it might be your nervous system simply having like Venita, a simple moment where, because of inflammation, it just interrupts the system because it has something else to do. Oh wait, this is not a priority anymore, what you were reading. We need to redirect energy this way so that your liver keeps on functioning. And it's people who don't realize that the brain is always working and is always compensating. Even people getting very old, Alzheimer, there's a theory, a hypothesis, not a theory, that says it's the way the brain compensates for past trauma by over remembering specific things that are structural to your life. Even if they're bad things, they allow you to recognize your environment. So when all the rest is not able to work anymore properly, the brain just says, okay, we're going to take the milestones of our life and use them as criteria to recognize stuff, because I don't have enough space anymore or energy to put in all this information. Like, I forgot the name of people that I hated at one point in my life, like with a passion. I'm like, how can I? Wait, I hated that guy. Like, for 2 years, we were fighting each other, meeting up, like, I'm going to kill you. And I don't remember his name. I mean, people you love, you remember their name. But people you hate, you remember them even more. Because, there's something like, I remember that guy. Like, people remember more Hitler than Churchill. It's actually a fact. It's horrible when you think about it. People remember really well Hitler. Everybody knows Hitler. But if I ask people, who was Chamberlain? He wasn't a bad guy, but he was just nobody.
Right. So what else? What else was striking? Looking at question 6. So one of the things Dr. Walensky, the new CDC director, was talking about, Rachel was saying, what is it, the COVID information project that has done such a good job of documenting COVID-19 cases. Anyway, they shut down this week, apparently in order to let the CDC resume its place as the be-all and end-all of factual information, even though they're not really ready to take up that mantle. But so Dr. Walensky, the new CDC director, was saying to Rachel Maddow that, she just kind of went down the list of all of the kinds of cuts in public health across the board, including CDC, that have occurred over the last 10 years. So not just the Trump phenomenon.
Right.
And how she believes that once this COVID relief bill gets passed, it's going to have the resources that will allow the CDC to, get back to some kind of sense. But I'm relating it to this chapter because there's a point at which Laurie Garrett is going down the list with all of the slashes in public health and how that allowed for rat infestation.
Yes.
To run wild, like all over New York City and whatnot.
I was amazed at that. I was actually amazed. I remember reading that and stopping and reading it again. You talking about major cities, whether they're New York, Philly, DC, I don't care, Atlanta, any major city, the last thing you want to do, I mean, you cut back on the food stamps, but you do not cut back on the rodent and insect control. You just don't do it. You just don't do it.
There's some areas now where they're very prevalent. I saw some having a convention. Oh, it was a mouse. It was a mouse convention. Oh. Or turkey on Christmas dinner. I don't know why, but they had grandma and great grandma, all the children,
which is also big brother and big sister, by the way. Rats.
Yeah, but it's just scary. If you ever drive and you go on a road trip and you stop by a rest stop, even a nice one. I mean, just nice ones.
Yeah.
And you will see them run across your path. They look like cats. They're so big. It happened to me once. Carl and I were going, I forgot where we were going. And we were coming back from Philly. I'm sorry, he's over here. We were coming back from Philly. And I don't do rodents. Oh, he's downstairs and he overheard me because he know I was like too done. Rats was running across and they were the size of cats. I had never seen anything. No, they were huge, Michelle. You have never seen a rat like that in your life. I didn't know rats.
Oh, I thought they were cats in the subways here.
Oh, but see, I ain't been in New York. I ain't been to the subway in a while. Like since I was a little girl. But I'm telling you, the rats was this big. They looked like cats. It was amazing. And I was very afraid.
They walk along the subway platforms like they own property. Like
they smoke cigarettes, they steal pizza.
See, I would never get to work. When I get on the platform, rat walk past it like a cat. It's over for me. It's over.
But it's not just slashing funds. There's one thing that happened at the same time that hantaviruses and Lyme disease took over the United States. It's the big period where real estate became crazy in America between the 50s and the 80s with all these housing projects and all these gated neighborhoods. So those were forests or, areas where you had several animals and the rats were not prevalent because you had predators. Right. All of a sudden, all the big animals, the birds, the eagles disappear, but only the rats stay in those neighborhoods and rats carry hantaviruses and Lyme disease through ticks.
Yeah. I heard that before.
These two outbreaks are related to our way of life and slashing funds. At the same time, it's like, give them dynamite. Just give them dynamite.
Right.
Stop slashing funds. Give them weapons. Arm them. Arm viruses at that point.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's pretty fascinating phenomena. So the Democrats are all patting themselves on the back because they've done a good thing. They've passed 1.9 trillion.
9 months late.
Really still.
Thank you.
9 months late, but
some people are already homeless.
Yeah, but that's not the Democrats' fault, and and the Republicans. Obviously they didn't vote for it, so who knows what.
Look at Manchin.
Saying
for just $100, he stalled the bill. You're like, okay,
yeah,
for $100 a week because. And when people say we have a tough time getting people back to work because they're earning more money through the bill, you're like, that means your job sucks, and then it's near slavery.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? You're making money, but not enough to live. So is that work? Is that still work or indentured service? You get like pocket money.
Yeah.
Right.
Enough.
Right.
Pay people properly so they can pay rent, have food, and maybe it's not being shallow to ask for that, but people need entertainment. They need culture.
It's a
need. So
I agree.
Stop telling them you cannot use that credit card we gave you to buy books or to go to the movies or a bar. Yes. Stop. Give them, why are we attacking the poor like that?
Because they can. And I mean, I agree. They need entertainment. I agree with you. That's like food for your brain and food for your body. You give them, you get your money and they're going to tell you what to do with it.
Yeah.
Like you're not supposed to take your children to a matinee. You understand? If you could,
Right.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Right.
I'm disgusted by it.
Oh,
I'm
and for
disgusted
food
by all
stamps,
of
you
it.
need to work community service. Wait a second, that person didn't commit a felony.
Thank you.
Why
Right.
sorry, but
Right.
why? Why? What about
Right.
you piece of whatever you are, politician doing community service on your free time instead of going to Cancun?
Well, I told Michelle. I told Michelle, which really I found very disturbing, that during the time, the height of COVID, when they were given an extra $600 a week on the unemployment, I heard people with my own ears. Well, I was in certain place, I can't call no names. You know, they were the things they were saying was, I couldn't even believe it. And one thing I won't allow you to do is to put down someone in front of me. It's not going to happen. If we're in that same space and I got to be in that space with you, I have to defend it. You know, I just can't let it go by. I'm like, excuse moi, are you forgetting whether they work $7 an hour, an hour job, or $20 an hour job? They pay taxes. Are you forgetting that?
You pay taxes.
They are working 40, 50, 60 hours. And that's what's sad about it. If it's a person out there making $100,000 a year, you act like no matter what you're making, that's $7.50 an hour, working 40-hour week, they're paying taxes. So this is not welfare. This is their tax money coming to their aid when they need it. But they're trying to, the comments people made was so diminishing. It was like, this extra money, they lost their job. Both people working minimum wage an hour job with 2 children, working harder than anybody I know. But they're all of a sudden, they're supposed to be, they're like charity cases. No, they work, they pay taxes. What are you talking about? You understand what I'm saying? People are just like, I was telling Michelle, I just get so disturbed. What is wrong with people? How could you even think that?
But even think about the undocumented immigrants.
My question about the COVID relief bill is, do you guys think we are at a turning point in American politics?
No.
America is really,
the answer is no.
Well, guys, don't answer so quick. America has been out of step, with most of the modern world because of our racism for a very long time. And so I wonder if this is like a watershed moment where not that this aid is going to become continuous, but that we will start to turn the tide.
It actually will.
In the system where we begin to understand, like, we need government to control the rats.
And also Republicans are angry because they say there are non-COVID-19 related provisions in the bill. The bill has been analyzed. It might cut poverty in America by half. You know why? Every kid in a family, in a household with, under a certain yearly revenue income is going to get, if I remember, 100 or 300 tax relief cuts per month, which technically will account until they're 18, which can be huge for some communities. They did the calculations. Overall, poverty can be slashed by half. Plus, there's a ton of things in that bill that are not COVID-19 related, but it's a real reform of society. I think it might be remembered if it works, as well as good as well as we remembered the Johnson Act against poverty that created Medicare and Medicaid. And Social Security in general, and it was a bipartisan bill and pushed by the Republicans back then, because so what I'm saying is that the problem is that Democrats need to stop talking about cancel culture and all that stuff and go back to the South, go back to the Midwest, and show the benefits of that bill to the people in trailer parks, to farmers, and show them who's doing the work. Instead of going after cultural items, you know what? Enough of white people trying to fix racism through words. You know what? You want to fix racism? Take care of the prison system first, and the justice system, and the police, and the urban planning system, and the voting system. Go after that, and then you'll talk about the N-word in TV shows. It's just that's not a part. It's offensive. What's the priority is where do we fix things? To me, that's all gaslighting, at that point, because we're still not fixing the real issues. And I hope this bill, Democrats won't mess it up.
I hope not either. And I know it's overly optimistic, but I do hope that we are able to look back in a few years and see this as a turning point, because we literally have had decades now of disinvestment in the public sector.
I would say active cruelty towards vulnerable people, because think about unemployment, how it evolved. The systems collapsed for unemployment benefits in 2020 because they were HTML from the 90s, and they did that purposefully. Every state, some states ask you to have 5 relevant searches, proof of search per week. What happens when you're in a state where your line of work doesn't have 5 opportunities a week? You lose unemployment benefits, and all of that was passed through laws to the point where only, if I remember, 11% of Americans unemployed are receiving unemployment benefits. Only 11%.
Florida is notorious for that. Florida is notorious.
They made it super difficult.
They made it so difficult for you to collect unemployment, and the goal was to make it so you could not get unemployment.
Exactly.
And now with COVID, because those laws are in place and they made it so difficult, you have people that still have not gotten unemployment since last March when they got laid off, and they're now laying the street. That's how hard Florida made it. You got thousands and thousands of people that literally have not applied in 2020 in March for unemployment.
And you become then homeless, so they tell you to go to Social Security.
That's it.
And you're like, wait, what?
It's amazing, but no one wants to talk about that. Another thing too, a lot more poverty was happening. Because remember, you can be a so-called middle-class person making $100 and a half, making $100 and a half between the two of you, own a little house, but when the two of you lose your job within 30 days, and God knows,
the stock market collapses and the mortgage goes up by 20 points.
You are now homeless. So you just added to poverty. You went from middle class, you didn't you didn't collect $200, you went straight down to poverty. So no one talks about that either.
70% of Americans are like 2 months away from homelessness, or 80%, I don't remember. We're 2 paychecks max away from homelessness.
That's the truth. I believe that. And they say, make sure you stay, they always say save 6 months of, to pay your bills in case there's an emergency. The average person with the average pay, even with $50,000 a year, how the hell are you going to save 6 months worth of mortgage, taxes, homeowners insurance, oil, gas, electric, car insurance, car note bills? How long would it take you to put away 6 months of that? Could you ever put away 6 months of it?
They realize that like 60% or 70% can't come up with $500 right away.
That's what they said.
And when I turned on Morning Joe this morning, they were talking about today is March 10th, and they were kind of doing a retrospective on where we were on March 10th, 2020.
We're in the same place. Okay, Michelle, stop. You're making
before times.
Even if you had 6 months of savings, it'd be gone by now, because we certainly did not imagine that 12 months later we would be essentially right in the same position that we're in. What do y'all think about these states that are lifting the mask mandates?
I won't be going to Texas. I won't be going to Utah. I won't be going to wherever they lift the mask. Venita won't be there.
No, it's
don't worry about it. And they're not going to lift them in Connecticut. I can guarantee you, these people love to live. They like their money. They'll do anything you tell them to do. If it's for 2 years, they will wear those masks. I don't know what to say, but I'm not surprised at Texas. In Utah, Jesus is with them, I guess.
But also when I think about, you know, I mean, first of all, you got all these COVID variants that have yet to be understood, you know.
Now there's South
Then you
African
have
is bad.
all these things like the hantaviruses, where there's all this just, you know, as Rick was saying, there's a whole big world.
Yes.
Well, just to let you know, the swine flu from Siberia, a new swine flu, was contracted by 10 workers a month ago. They're fine. But that means they're coming out of the woods, all of them. Hey, I'm going to try this time. You know, they've been, coronavirus is talking to them, like all the viruses out there. Like, what? How did you do it? Well, you know, I mimicked something they didn't care about.
You know, what they're saying is, get your butt over to the U.S. It's full of dummies.
Well,
exactly.
You know, HIV already said that to all viruses, saying, hey, guys, this is the only place where they actually have orgies all the time. Really? Orgies. Why? I don't know. They just do it.
No, it's the truth, though. You know what, Rick? And one thing I do want to do, whenever we get this COVID in order, I want to get together. I really have to, you know, I've grown so fond of you, and I really want us to get together. We can wear masks, like two of them if you want to.
I'm still not eligible to the vaccine, but my sister got it yesterday, the J&J at 3 a.m. No, today at 3 a.m. at Javits Center. Oh. And she was eligible because of asthma. Okay. And she told me that they did that very seriously, that it's worth the drive if you're coming from another state, if you're eligible to Javits Center, because it's the National Guard. So the National Guard takes care of injecting people. Then, because they knew she had, she has an EpiPen all the time on her, she's like allergic to 30 things.
Right.
And she's still coming up with new things she's allergic to. And so they put her in a chair, and the doctors and nurses are observing people for an hour in line of sight. They looked at her for an hour. She was like, oh, and, you know, being nice to her, but still looking at her. And finally, they let her go. She got the J&J and said, wow, it's no side effect, no skin rash. She's really happy. She's done. My mother's done too.
Do you think it's just as good as the Pfizer and the Moderna? I'm to ask you.
The J&J is old school technology, but it's really, I would say it's very solid. It's a really good vaccine. I gotta say, and here's where it might save the world. It can be kept 3 months in a normal fridge, which means that Africa could benefit from it, and South America and Southeast Asia, where the Pfizer vaccine, like, it takes ultra tech technology to refrigerate, you know, like minus 80 degrees Celsius.
Well, people were actually questioning the efficacy of the Johnson and Johnson.
Well, AstraZeneca is, but J&J, the data seems very solid. And this is where it's very solid. Unlike a lot of other clinical trials, it's really across all different groups. Women, men, all races, pretty equal. And the sample is really, it's beautifully designed. I gotta say that their clinical trial is the most well-designed of all. It's really strong, lots of people around the world, different ages. It's impressive. You see, they knew what they were doing. J&J has always produced vaccines since the 50s, 60s. You see old school knowledge, and great for them. You know, AstraZeneca, it's odd, the data. There's a lot of, they didn't answer several questions about the data and how they calculated things. So that's why we're still like, it works, but it's not optimal. We're not sure about people over certain ages. It's just.
And that's the Moderna or the Moderna.
Well, Moderna's nice too. Pfizer, they're really nice. The problem we have with Pfizer and Moderna is we don't know for how long they're truly efficacious because it's a new technology. J&J, we can extrapolate because we've already used that in the past for other diseases. Okay. So J&J, we have suspicions that immunity could last maybe 3 years with one shot.
And what's the efficacy? And what is it compared to?
Well, Pfizer and Moderna, we know right now that it's efficacious 95% after 4 months now. 6 months, actually. 6 months. It's very strong. But we don't know if it's a full year, if we'll need the vaccine every year with these.
And J&J is right up there with that.
We think it could be longer, yeah, but we're not sure yet. We have to wait. That's always a problem in vaccines. You cannot know before you see after a year. So how many people got vaccinated, got the virus? 10. How many didn't get it? 90. It works.
Got you. Got you.
But you got to wait. That's what Donald Trump wasn't telling people.
And the one Benita, the one that Rick was saying, the one Rick was saying didn't answer some questions was AstraZeneca.
Oxford. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know about AstraZeneca. I mean, Moderna and Pfizer, but I didn't.
And that one's not. They're not using that in the U.S., right? I don't think they're using that here yet.
No, because there's a lot of questions, and there's a big problem with AstraZeneca in Europe is that they committed to giving 300 million doses to the European Commission. The UK got doses, and it seems like AstraZeneca is sending doses manufactured in Italy, Belgium, and the UK outside of the EU to other countries. So Italy yesterday, 2 days ago, embargoed all factories of AstraZeneca. So all doses have been stopped, and they're staying in Italy. Same thing in France and Belgium and Germany this morning. They're in a bad spot. Here's the problem with AstraZeneca. They're not a vaccine company. It's not their specialty.
Oh, okay.
And their vaccine works. That's not the problem. It's just you feel that they're not familiar with all the vaccine language that Pfizer masters beautifully. Johnson & Johnson, they can do that. Their eyes closed. They know it by heart. You feel it's a new field for them. It's a good vaccine, just not the best, I think.
Mm-hmm. And why was Johnson & Johnson lagging behind distribution? Because there were a lot of folks that feel like this, like secondhand, because they were lagging behind Pfizer and Moderna.
Pfizer and Moderna, you need maps in a way to just create their vaccine. It's RNA, so you just take the DNA, new mutation, you change the strings, put it back in, booster, it's done. So it takes 48 hours. You test it. You can develop that really rapidly. Johnson & Johnson use the old method, which is, hello, little rat. Pew, pew. The rat is dead. Don't use that. Try another dose. Old school. Okay. Unfortunately, old school is the only way to know how it really behaves. And when you kill 1,000 rats, you're like, yeah, we know we should never do that with humans. We have a do not list. And people don't talk about that. CDC, I'm sure that many monkeys died during tests for COVID pathologies. We have to do that. We have to infect them with the virus to see if it mutates. And if it mutates and kills them, then we know we're in deep trouble because they're 99% our genome, which means it takes very little. We can calculate and anticipate, but these programs are not popular. The whole thing about animals is that people don't realize the reason why we test on animals is because there's no way to, if we test on humans, consequences could be horrific.
Yeah.
We don't know the dosing. It's all poison. All drugs are by definition of
That's right.
You have to dose it. But also, this is the worst part that people don't realize is that, and for example, Regeneron, one of the companies that worked on the monoclonal antibody for Donald Trump, well, they have what they call a magic mouse. It's a mouse. The guy is an ex-student in biology who created a clone of a mouse that can mimic the human DNA. Any human DNA or condition, he can reprogram them. Well, the magic mouse is a multi-billion-dollar animal. They have several. And so they can create medications based on human DNA without testing on humans rapidly. Then they test, but it's very safe. They're impressive for Regeneron. So I know they're pharmaceutical companies, but you have incredible people working in them. And you also have not so good people. It's like, but the problem is that healthcare in America being privatized. I'm worried about long-term COVID. How will people get coverage for that? How do I identify long-term COVID symptoms?
They won't. They'll be pre-existing if they have it their way.
Or worse, where COVID medications are very expensive. Yes. Maybe it's depression. It looks like depression. Antidepressant is cheap. Yeah. You should take an antidepressant.
Yes. It's going to be a lot. The repercussions we haven't even seen it yet. What's going to happen?
30% of people who had COVID. Oh, worse. I told everybody, remember Michelle, I hope you mark my words. I know my sister is freaked out. In April or May, I remember having a theory about incubation period, which is not 2 weeks, but longer. And I thought, but asymptomatic people are going to get sick later. Well, guess what? 30% of asymptomatic people have developed symptoms over time, but discreetly. First, little cough, but just a cough. Then later, and they're negative at that point. They were asymptomatic. Later, they develop heart problems, and later fatigue, and later shortness of breath over a period of 1 year. I'm sorry to laugh, but it's just that people didn't believe me. It's a retrovirus. It's sneaky. It's like HIV. It doesn't work like your regular flu. We have to stop thinking like that. It's like a ticking bomb. And my theory is that the older you are, the faster you die of it, and the most respiratory are your symptoms. Younger you are, the most autoimmune they'll be, and long term. So that's why I tell people, just don't get contaminated. Stop thinking that it's okay, you'll probably survive it. Yes, for now.
Okay, so that brings us back to, I'm afraid that people that have gotten the vaccine already, and I can see it and hear it in them, they're getting a false sense of security. So I think this summer is going to be hell, no matter what state you're in. Because now they say that if you've been vaccinated with people close to you and they've been vaccinated, now you can get close with no social distancing within that group of people without a mask. The CDC said that yesterday.
Yeah, for vaccinated people. Yeah, because
for vaccinated people, but I just don't understand.
After 2 weeks of vaccination.
Yeah, but so everyone is vaccinated in your home.
Mm-hmm.
You can be in their company as you are anyway.
without yeah. No, you can, and you can gather, because we're pretty sure that 6 people. The problem we have is more, are vaccinated people still able to be carriers? So they don't have the disease, but the virus is there. Like, I can't contaminate your cells. You're fighting too well, but I'll stay there. I'll stay there.
Well, that's the scary part. Because they are vaccinated, they're going to get loose. You know what I'm saying? I'm protected.
I'm a carrier. Ah! But by the way, there's something that people don't say that we all know in epidemiology. When the vaccination, why are we supposed to vaccinate people super fast, not slowly? Because you reduce the number of hosts slowly. You give the virus time to realize one thing. Some of its accidental mutations might be better at, that's what happened with South Africa, defying those new vaccines. What will survive are the viruses that can fight back against the treatments, and this is the South African strain that made a lot of epidemiologists not sleep for the past month, because they're not talking about it, but it replaced its spikes with tiny little balls, which makes the immune system is the dumbest thing in the world. People should realize that your immune system is an idiot. If they don't see exactly the same virus, they'll be like, "Who are you? I'm not coronavirus." Okay, you can go by. And if they see something that looks like it's trying to cure you, they're gonna attack it. Oh, you're not the body. No, but I'm helping against the tumor. The immune system is dumb. It needs education. Well, the problem is that when you have a vaccine and you have a South African strain that can challenge the quote unquote perception of the immune system and just not be seen, and also that can recode monoclonal antibodies, which means that you can't even get a cure. The South African strain is very scary, and it's here. So people should not get loose. Just saying. This one is bad. And in America, we have now 7 strains, including 2 in New York that are extremely contagious. And there's this baby that was sick from COVID when he was born. People were like, "What? How did that happen?" And they took a swab from the baby's nose, 5,000 times the viral load of a critical patient, adult patient. Baby's fine. Wow. Baby's saved. And because of that, when you have such a thing, you're like, we should do a DNA test on the virus. And yeah, the virus is a mutation. Now, what we might have caught just one accidental mutation that is going to die off. But if there are so many mutations out there that are strange, that are dying off, that means there's a chance that 2 or 3 will survive. And I think that, we were talking about, it's been a year and 6 months, we thought it would last 2 weeks. I remember at that time when people were talking like that, it reminded me of what my great-grandfather wrote to my great-grandmother when they were walking direction the German troops during the First World War for the first days in August. We'll be back in 3 months. The war lasted 4 years. And they said the same thing of the Second World War. The Germans, we'll be done with the war in 2 months. They fought the Americans. We'll be in Iraq for 3 weeks. We'll be out of Vietnam in 2 years. Never believe when people say it's not going to be long. It's going to be long. So
yeah, and it just as you were talking about that, I was thinking about the racism that shows up in this chapter. That is so similar to what we see with COVID, with the media, it wasn't the US president, but with the media labeling the hantavirus as the Navajo disease, in the beginning. And, and here we are a quarter of a century later, and still, I guess my question is, can humans learn?
No, but it's reassuring. That's what people don't say about racism.
Do we ever solve any problem, or do we just have to keep going round and round?
It has to keep going with
stuff.
When something insane keeps on happening, you have to wonder what it is. It's quote unquote positive function. And racism has one function for capitalism society, which is to avoid problems. So it's not a virus, it's the Navajo virus. It's the Navajo. It's the Chinese flu. It's the Chinese problem, not yours, not your fault. You shouldn't change your way of life, and so on. And you reverse cause and effect. For example, people in poor neighborhoods are sick because they're rats. But to the system, they say no, they're rats because they're dirty. Reverse cause and effect. Oh, it's no longer my problem. Is these people need to strap their boots and find a job. There you go. You reverse, and this is how they do it. And I think that the woman, I have to find the name of that woman who wrote. I told you about the about when she presented a report to Congress. She was a Black woman in 1991 about credit agencies that were harassing people and that a reform was needed, and they didn't listen, and they made things worse. She wrote a new book, and she's doing a whole thing trying to show that racism is costly to society. That racism actually, even if you don't care about civil rights and stuff, and you're a white man and you're privileged, racism actually is costing you money, is destroying your own society, and you don't realize it. So she has decided to take the scientific approach to measure the cost of racism to society. For example, because of her experience, they didn't listen to her because they took 5 years to reform it in the wrong way. People lost even more money, and debt inflated.
Mm-hmm.
So the cost was this and that. So I think I hope the Democrats become pragmatic. And finally, we need a Johnson. We need a guy who understands the South and can fight for civil rights. Yeah, it's like all these people saying right now, oh, let's remove Lincoln statues. Okay, here's the thing. I'm a pragmatic. Lincoln said some really racist stuff, but you know what? He emancipated slaves, so that's doing something kind of massive. It's not that we should forgive him, but we should not. He's not the target. The target are people who are, for example, I always talk about anti-racist people who are very loud, but deep down call the cops on, when there's somebody telling you can't have your dog around. And they always say, but I'm not racist. Yeah, but you behaved racist. It's not the intention that counts. It's what happens. So, it's just that I'm worried Democrats should really end the culture wars by saying we don't care. Do whatever you want. We're not
Right.
asking them to resign except if they committed a crime. Okay. Oh, they did a joke that's offensive. Who cares? Stop shooting yourself in the feet. A lot of people are going like Justin Trudeau, the progressive sweetheart, was in blackface not once, not twice, 3 times. Dude. And I know him. He's a dummy. That doesn't make it all right. Still racist, but what I'm saying is that he's not the target, because at the same time people were putting shit on him, nobody was attacking Stephen Harper at the same time with the same intensity for what he did to Native Canadians. And I remember the Black NAC, the equivalent of the NA, it's a Black association in Canada. They said, we don't care what Trudeau did in 1990. He's done so much since he became prime minister. We don't care. Pragmatic, it's just, I'm sick and tired of it.
And I like that aspect of Biden.
Yeah.
That
do stuff.
He's not talking about Mr. Potato Head and all of that. It is
That's
gaslighting.
a nasty question.
It is. Major distractions, but it just concerns me that we're just going around in circles, and so this chapter is just another illustration of. So in this chapter, you've got the early racism going on. So then that means the Navajo people don't want to participate in the public health, in their investigation. And it just makes it harder. It makes it take longer.
You got to understand, the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs has always been a pain in the ass on these communities. Each time they managed to become economically autonomous, the BIA changed the rules, making them impossible to do their commerce. And also, let's not forget that they're one of the sole people in the world in recent history that got bacteriological weapons all over their place during a century and a half. Any intervention, how many nations were sterilized in so-called vaccination drives in the 40s and 30s? How many of these nations suffered of that? Called reservations, which is for animals, by the way, not for humans. So
that's why there's so much vaccine hesitancy in the Black community, because
but not Native Americans, surprisingly. Because
oh really?
Yeah, I heard that they are fighting to get doses because I think there's a story that I have to check. Not sure if it's an urban legend or what, that originally they were denied vaccines, the first vaccines ever created. And they had civil rights leader in the 20s, 30s fighting for these early vaccines and for polio vaccine to the communities, and getting beaten up and denied. So actually, Native Americans have been like forever advocating for vaccines. Like, this is our fight to get, even the flu vaccine, they don't get enough each year because they're not technically American territory. No, they're American territory, but they're like autonomous. Like, you're independent when we want you to be independent, and you're dependent when we need you to be. It's so strange. It's
right.
But no, Black people and vaccines, I get it. Not just vaccines in general. Interventions, medical interventions. Hey, no, it's just a pill. No, take it. Yes, you're in prison. Yeah, take it. In the 30s and 40s. Hey, I feel bad and I'm puking blood. It's okay. It means it's working. How many prisoners were castrated in the 50s with radioactive isotopes for experiments? And you know why nobody talks about that? They were choosing so-called rapists. You never know if they were innocent or not in the 50s, and child molesters. But even if you hate those people, the state should never be allowed to do that to your human body.
And military people too. I think I sent something to Venita a couple of weeks ago where the military is having like 30% of military people don't want to take the vaccine because they have been subjected to so much experimentation without their knowledge or consent.
Gulf War syndrome. Nobody wants to talk about it. It disappeared after 9/11, but it's still around. We still haven't solved the mystery. Well, we know.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah.
We just don't want
No,
to talk about it.
There's a lot of stuff. So I am still just, taking the position that it's a very personal, individualized decision, what people decide to do.
You have to educate, not mandate.
And and to me, it really has a lot to do with your lifestyle. Like I believe if if I worked in a hospital or maybe even a grocery store where I had to encounter a lot of people, I probably would be running to get to the front of the vaccine line. So I think it just depends, but that's not my situation.
Now we know they're pretty safe. From Europe, from all over the world. We even know the Russian vaccine might work really well. Now that they're double checking with other populations, the Chinese vaccine is like suboptimal. The Cuban vaccine is really good. Really?
Well, I don't have a problem with getting a vaccine. I don't have a problem with receiving a vaccine because I vaccinated my children. It's just that I need to feel comfortable with it. You got
to be tested on people with conditions similar to yours. Otherwise, you have to be careful. And that's why everybody needs to get vaccinated before you, so you don't necessarily need it in the end. Even though compromised people should not necessarily, you're the people we should be protecting by all getting vaccinated. Because if you can't, you can't. So.
And that's the whole thing. And the problem is that they haven't had enough studies, and I don't know what will happen. Remember, as I was explaining to Michelle, the problem with SLE is your body turning against your body.
Yep.
And that's what the vaccine can cause. Is your body, like COVID. That's what it does.
Your body is full of an immune system that is very unruly and like ready to fight. And all of a sudden comes a vaccine and say, hey, let's have some paintball. No, you're using real weapons. That's your immune system.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't want to play.
With me, I feel like it puts me in more danger without having the research behind it. And I have nothing to go on because my body is already, my immune system is overactive. That is the problem.
I'm against this whole shaming of people.
I can inhale air. And that's why certain times of the year I get lupus flare-ups in the spring and in the fall. It's guaranteed. Yeah. Sometimes mild, sometimes severe, but allergies, it's guaranteed. The allergens come out. Yeah. I pricked my arm with a mulberry bush. One little tiny prick.
And that was enough? Wow.
Just one prick. But my body thought that my whole body was being pricked with mulberry bush. And was this
burn everything.
One little
the body alive. What are you doing?
It was one prick on the elbow, and I had the worst flare up that lasted for 8 months from one prick of a mulberry bush. I mean, it didn't stick in where it was actually stuck in my arm.
Oh,
you had to pull it out. No, it just.
But there was enough in your bloodstream to launch the whole process.
That's it. 8 months, sick. Prednisone, 40 milligrams.
Imagine a vaccine.
40 milligrams of prednisone. That was for 2 months, almost 2 months, because it went crazy. And then, of course, you had to taper off, and it's like coming off a heroin.
Yeah, they have to taper off. Yeah,
it's a long time. And I was explaining to Michelle how the reason to Michelle is I never knew how drug addicts felt. I could imagine. Now I see why it's hard for them to stop taking drugs, because your body, when you come down for prednisone, if you come down too quickly, or your body, even when you come down slow, sometimes your body says no.
You're very sad or depressed.
Well,
start crying.
Actually, it's like you're losing your mind. You just
unruliness.
Right. So, and I can understand why people in drugs, why it's so difficult for them, because what happens to your body is like, I'd rather take the drug than go through this.
Oh yeah, that's what real addiction is, and that's what's the name of Burroughs, the beatnik author who was a drug addict. One of my personal heroes, even if he was dirty as possible. But he explains in Junkie, I think it's his first book. He says, you're a junkie not because you need it, not because you want it, but because one morning you wake up and you're sick.
Yes.
And you're sick, you're puking.
Yes.
And you don't know what's happening. It's because you haven't had your dose, but you had it yesterday, but all of a sudden your body wants the dose. And you realize it's sick. Addicted doesn't mean anymore, oh, I need it for my problems, I feel anxiety. No, it's real physical. If you don't take it, your body collapses. And Amy Winehouse, people didn't understand how she died out of just one night being drunk after months of stopping alcohol.
That's so sad. That was
You
sad.
never do that. That's a thing doctors and everybody knows. Like Al Jorgensen, the singer from the metal band Ministry, he's a survivor. He's 60. He used all the drugs in the world. I'm not kidding you. And he said the worst of all is crack. Said, yeah, I regret that. It's a stupid drug, worst drug in the world. And he was explaining, I haven't had heroin in 20 years and I will never use it again. Oh, why? Because the problem is the first time you take heroin, you have this incredible flash. And every time afterwards, you build up tolerance. So you increase the dose, you're still not finding that original flash. Then you quit. If you take again, you will take at the dose you professional junkie used to use. And now you're no longer a professional junkie. Your body overdose guaranteed, he said. So you never reuse heroin. When you quit, it's forever. Otherwise, next time you're dead. He said the same thing about booze.
And I've actually known people, a couple of people that it's actually happened to. That quit heroin. These are white collar people.
No, but everybody's a victim of heroin, trust me.
Reason why I'm saying it, because you have to distinguish it sometimes, because right away an audience may assume, no, these are white collar people.
Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley.
They got their BMWs every day and they showed up dead. They had quit, gotten off of heroin, went one day, said they're going to try a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. That one day, I guess they assumed that they would just do a little bit, had overdose, just like that. Yep. Died.
And that just reminds me, this is not dead people stories, but so I've been watching. So okay, I watched the Oprah interview with. I'm not a royal watcher, but I did watch the Oprah interview with Meghan and Harry, and then that led me to start watching the Netflix series called The Crown.
The Crown, yeah.
So there's an episode in The Crown called Jackie Kennedy. And it's when Jackie and Jack go to England, they meet Queen Elizabeth, they have a lovely state dinner. Queen Elizabeth takes Jackie on a private tour of Buckingham Palace. Then the next day, Jack and Jackie are at another party, and Jackie says some really nasty things about the Queen. The rumors get back to the Queen. So when Jack finds out about it, he's happy about it because it led the Queen to go to Ghana, and that's when she ended up meeting with Nkrumah. And so Jack Kennedy was happy about that because it was like she had something to prove to Jack Kennedy. She wasn't the dull, simple, stupid, empty-headed person that Jackie was described. But Jackie was mortified. Jack was happy because it had the political effect that benefited him. But Jackie was mortified that her words got back to the Queen. So next time they were in England, she asked for a private audience with Queen Elizabeth. So she granted it. And Jackie told Queen Elizabeth, she was telling her what a shy person she is and how she really doesn't like, all of this public duties that they have to do. Jack loves it. She hates it. But she was saying their schedules are so hectic that the doctors shoot them up with vitamins. And she said, it just helped loosen us up and give us the energy to get. And she's like, apparently it loosens the tongue also. And so she's saying this is why she said the things that she said about the Queen. But it made me think about two things. It made me wonder, is Donald Trump high all the time?
They're all high. They have to. You have to be high because think about it. we feel overwhelmed by a lot of things. Now, you're president of the United States. You arrive in the Oval Office and they show you something. Okay, so this is the reason why you will not even talk about it to your own wife or your husband. Why? So the Russians said, so if we move there, it's nuclear war. If we move there, 1 million people die. And that, the bridge collapsed. And that, Godzilla comes out. What? Aliens? What? Give me drugs. And you sleep 3 hours a night. Remember Obama when he was elected? Hey, 8 years later, I got gray hair. I'm not even 50.
Right.
It's so stressful. And I think people don't realize the weight.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't realize they were doing drugs in order to get through the day.
No, but the thing in the episode that's impressive is that the queen must probably think, you amateur, you nouveau riche. We've been here 1,000 years. Actually 200 because they got 400 they come from the German. It's complicated, whatever. But I do that. I don't have a hectic schedule. My function is my life. My schedule is my function. Right. My father died of lung cancer after fighting the Nazis, while my uncle was betraying the family with an American divorcee, just to say, and went to the Germans, leading Chamberlain to be a coward. I was in the ruins of London in the 40s while they were blitzing the place, helping people out, and I'm the queen? You amateur. And, you know, I'm sure that the family's thinking the same thing right now about Harry and Meghan, like, like you know, you have to realize that I think poor Meghan didn't realize one thing. In Europe, we never talk about it because the whole touristic image of princes and prince and kings. King is the word that comes from rex in Latin, which means warlord. Our kings and queens are warlord. They pay the price of blood. We pay the price of money or you know, agriculture, whatever. But that's why there was a revolution in France, because like, you're not fighting anymore. You know, like, you shouldn't be getting our money. But in England, you know, we all know in Europe one thing: the reason why Europeans are not going to be very supportive of this whole thing and are not going to look at it is because without England, we would have lost against the Nazis, and without Queen Elizabeth and their incredible fight, the British. So there's a respect, because we know that the reason why Great Britain, which was racist, anti-Semitic, didn't fall to the Nazi ideologies because of the monarchy. They have a strong monarchy. We don't say it's always the best thing, but so the problem is that this whole situation, and I want to say something, you know, to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the problem I think they have is that they're not abdicating. Abdicate. Free yourself forever from them, because I think they're scared that here's a problem. If they free themselves from them, that means their children are at jeopardy, because if I'm a nicest operative, I'm coming for you, because, you know, beheading Prince Harry in front of televisions would be nice. So they can't escape the MI5. I guarantee you, supposedly they're not getting money from the crown, but the secret services are all over the place surveilling them. And I think they're never going to escape. And where I'm really worried is more, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that there's a real risk that this is not over, and that she is not going to feel better, and he is not going to feel better, because I think that if they want to escape tabloids, that was not the best move to do. And I think they forget that the royal family is one of the most powerful in the world, and they have a ton of money and connections, and they're dirty. Diana, look what they did with her. She was dirty too, but she was using her own weapons, like the one she had at disposal. These guys have real power, financial, global. So I think, you know, I don't know. It's like, I just hope that they can escape it. But if they're sincere about that, they should be very careful, because they're not nice people. They're not.
You know, I understand when I saw the Meghan and Harry interview. What did Meghan expect? I mean, I don't know what kind of Alice in Wonderland, fairy tale land she lived in, but I'm still wondering, they dated for a while, and even if they didn't date for a while, I'm a spectator. I didn't date Harry. I'm looking on the outside looking in, and I'm Black.
You know,
interracial, whatever you want to do, but you're Black. What kind of warm reception
of
a pure white monarchy, that has been set in place,
famously racist,
that they was going to open their arms up.
Wait,
maybe she thought because she was interracial, it might have made a difference.
No.
Because they get caught up in this thing, psychologically.
The guys who
I don't know what was she thinking. So why is she crying now? Like, what were you thinking? I mean, where do you think? Do you look at yourself in the mirror? Do you look at them? Do you look at you? That's all you got to do.
And it's not just that. You're going to a family that colonized Africa.
That's what I'm saying.
And India. And the Americas. And you think they have?
They were the master architects. The master architects. And
you don't like me. Well, so this is what I was telling you. The warlords. It's their function.
That's what I'm saying. When I looked at Meghan, I'm like, I don't feel anything. What are you trying to get?
But,
or should I feel anything? Because what were you thinking? You wanted to be with Harry. You wanted to be with Harry. You got the Alice in Wonderland wedding.
Mm-hmm.
That was cute. But where do you think you were going from there? Now you got the lily white sister-in-law standing up there.
I did feel compassion for Meghan.
I felt none.
But along the lines of what you're saying,
none.
More than even Meghan, to me, Harry should have seemed to have more awareness of what he was bringing the family
into. This is
into.
why.
But I felt compassion. I felt compassion in the sense that. So one thing with this series, this Netflix series, The Crown, is that they're kind of showing different ways in which society has kind of been pushing the monarchy to modernize, to get more in line with what is happening in society. And so that's a part of what was going on with Diana. It's happened at different points in Queen Elizabeth's reign. And it seems to be what's happening with Harry and Meghan. And so when you ask Venita, don't you know what you're walking into? My response would be, perhaps they thought that things had changed enough that we could do something different here.
But
I mean, they must have thought.
Did anybody notice something? It's important to notice one thing. She might be a victim of another royal, Prince Harry. Prince Harry's been traumatized by the death of his mother, and he's the one constantly saying in interviews, I did not want that to happen again to Meghan. What about we reverse everything? Meghan is a victim of the royal family and Harry. Harry wanted to get back at his family for what happened to his mother. The neurosis developed. He found a princess for to woo in, because he knew how they were, and they knew it would be a clash. He was not marrying royalty, which is by definition a problem. Diana was royalty. And then he pretends he thought it could happen again to her. Like a scenario. And that's why I think William is really angry at him. And I think maybe a lot of people are angry at the royal family. It's like, we know what you're doing. It's not about Meghan. It's about you and us. And I'm scared that she's being used by everybody. And Harry seems like a nice guy. We should be careful. Because if he's that nice a guy, there's a way to solve everything. You abdicate. You love your wife, you abdicate. He hasn't renounced his title. He should not be king if William dies. That's how he should rule. But he doesn't do it. And I know, because he likes too much, he wants to get back to the royal family one day as a royal. They didn't, Meghan is being pushed left and right. Canada and stuff. Mm-hmm. What about her? That's why I have compassion for her.
All right, okay, Rick. What I'm trying to say is, no, it's not right. But what I'm trying to say is, it's something that someone could expect. It's like me going, I don't have to be married to royalty. There's a zip code. This is my zip code. I go to another zip code with a multi-millionaire, way up there, billionaire. Well, I can expect even if he is black. I can expect that there might not be a warm reception because they are of the upper echelon, and I am over here. That's all I'm saying. That don't act like you're totally shocked, regardless of what he does. It would be me marrying a black man that's of the high class, and he bringing little old Venita there. I can walk the walk, I can talk the talk, but all their friends in that circle and all their wives and husbands are from that upper echelon.
But there's worse than that.
You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying I personally would not be shocked if my new husband's family, even boyfriend at that point, would not be accepting of me. And he's black.
Oh, no,
but it's also, you know,
but Megan, you know, there's a problem, Megan. She didn't look at the family. Look at the family pictures.
Here's the thing, Venita, that you know, I hear people saying that they feel like Megan was being disingenuous when she says she didn't even do any research on what it meant to be a princess. But as I said to you all at the beginning of this conversation, I am not a royal watcher. I have spent the last 20 minutes or whatever, this is the most I have ever talked about the royals in my entire lifetime.
But this is where Megan, unfortunately, is a victim of herself also, because when you get into such a family, look at the family pictures. Victoria, she's one important great-great-great-grandmother. Look at that picture. She's got 2 black kids on her left and right doing this. They're slaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not saying I don't feel bad.
Yeah, family reunions like that.
Call. I'm just saying that, you know, is this something that you could just naturally expect that might go south? That things could happen. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be funny. That things can happen. It might go south.
I'm not saying you should feel bad. I'm saying,
you know, I'm just saying that, you know, I don't. I've been expecting less.
The reality is we don't all process or move through the world in the same way.
But again, Harry
we're not all
is accountable.
We're not all aware of, and even though, you know, it might sound unbelievable that I don't know anything about the royal lifestyle, more than what I have learned in the last couple of days of watching Oprah and watching The Crown. Prior to this, I've had zero interest. But I have enough awareness to know there's a whole, you know, world of people out there who find all of this stuff very fascinating. So I'm just saying, I'm just saying I don't want to predict, you know, what Megan could have known or should have known, because maybe that's just not even, maybe she was interested in Hollywood, you know, or something else. Everybody is not on the same page about the royals. That's, you know, that's all.
Hasn't anybody noticed that we only speak of the British royal family? You know, in Europe, Norway is a kingdom. Sweden is one. Denmark is one. The Netherlands are one. Belgium is one. They all have kings and queens, and they have royal family. For example, Spain is a monarchy. And, you know, one famous French actress is actually now a princess. She's married to the crown inheritor in second, if I remember, Prince of, I don't know. He's a Bourbon. He's a French guy. Actually, the Spanish family is French, but like the British is German. Yeah, you know, we had sex with each other's families as aristocrats. But the thing is, she's not glamour. They're not glamour, because when somebody comes to the family, and this is why I say Harry is accountable, and this is maybe why the royal family is accountable for all the bullshit that happened also with Diana. When somebody comes into the family, they explain, okay, marrying is not about love in our family.
It's not.
You will be in charge if the government fails to take full power and lead the army. What? Yes, that's a role since the Middle Age. but the government won't fail. So in the meantime, you need to sign papers. You cannot behave this way. You need to do this because in front of militaries, you are their lieutenant. What? In religion, you represent God on earth. What? Yes, that's our constitution by God chosen. Okay. So it becomes a lifestyle where you become mannequin. You are an idea. You're no longer a human being. You're the idea of power, of nation, of whatever. And so Diana couldn't stand it. And Meghan can't stand that, but Harry can't stand it either. Remember when he was naked in Afghanistan? I mean, he did lots. We're seeing the limits of the system because the problem is that you can't have a monarchy without warriors. And the French would warn everybody about that. When they stopped doing war stuff around the 18th century and started just having, parties and orgies, in a matter of 8 years, we went there and killed them all. Like we slaughtered them. It was not a good thing, horrible. And I always remind people the rage of poor people when they had enough of the bullshit and spectacle, because what really bothered the French weren't that they were poor or starving. It was that they could see that these guys were taking their money, their work,
what they
to eat elephant that they had brought from Africa. This incredible land. Ooh, and here's Beethoven, and here's Mozart, and everybody's in the mud. Of course, I'm gonna kill them all. That's just.
Which is exactly why I've never been fascinated by the royals. So I can understand if Meghan has not been, and so I think Rick may be onto something, because clearly Harry. He grew up in that environment. He knew, he knew all of that. He knew what he
lost his mother to that environment.
But he knows, and he definitely knows. He definitely knows. But I'm just saying that just in general, I'm just saying in general, if I'm going to if it's another social status, I might not be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying in general, whether I know anything or not. And my assumption is, and we live in the United States of America, and social status is everything. That's why people are in debt. That's why people kill. That's why people do everything they do for money. If I'm going to step up to another social status, that I might not be accepted.
Yep.
Because usually people of the same circle like to travel and marry and reproduce with people of the same social status. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying she had to know
or higher.
And I hope Harry responsible also because he does know. But the point is, you would assume that your lifestyle is going to change. You would assume that everybody not be feeling you. Just looking at them, when you're dating a boy, stand up there looking at them straight face people, you might assume that might not be my thing. Because everything.
But I think
you can't show emotion.
But I think that she did. I think that she did have, some of that expectation. I don't think she expected that they were going to take her passport away. One of the lines that stood out in the show to me was, "You can't call an Uber to the palace," and I was like, "Oh yeah."
No, you can't for national security reasons.
But you can't call it. But Biden can't call a Uber to the White House, and he ain't even royalty.
No, he can, but the Uber will get shot by Secret Services if they're not notified.
You can't.
No, wait, no, sorry.
Right.
I take that back. No, you can enter anywhere in America if you're white and yelling, "I'm going to kill somebody."
That is true.
I forgot. Do you want me to go to the White House right now? Try to get it?
You can spread crap on the Capitol walls. You can, But, I'm just saying, I think that she expected some things, but didn't expect others.
But
but I would say that Harry has more responsibility.
I think so. And in Europe,
we
know what they did. That's really racist.
Yeah, but
when she was married to him, they invented a title for her, a new nobility title. When you do that in Europe, what we know it means from the ancient times? It's what we call a bought charge. You bought your charge, you're not really noble. We invent something, and why? You're always noble of the land. So the Princess of Wales, which is Charles, Scotland, no, not Scotland, it's France. Actually, they don't like to talk about it, but the Prince of Scotland is the president of France because of Mary Stuart. It's complicated, whatever. And you always get Sussex, the Marquis of Sussex, or the Duchess of the Duke of Sussex, whatever, Prince of this or that. She didn't get a territory. She got a new title of like from nowhere. They didn't give her a land, which means she's not a real Briton. She's not pure blood. And by the way, you want to talk about racism in the royal family? When Diana was buried, her brother, who's a piece of shit, by the way, he reminded during the burial with, Elton John and that song that almost got us all crazy.
Yeah.
Like after 2 years, shut up! Sorry. He reminded, we are pure English nobility. You, the Windsor, you come from Germany, which is true. 4 centuries ago, and that's the Newton-Leibniz dispute at the same time. And then the French come up and say, yeah, we know, we're the oldest family. Oh, wait, no, we killed everybody? Sorry. What's funny is actually the racism, when I always tell about white supremacy, doesn't exist in Europe. You know why? Because white supremacy in Europe even affects white people, which is, we the French are evidently the superior race. The Italians are inferior. And then the Italians are like, yeah, evidently Hungarians are inferior. And then Hungarians are like, well, Belarusians are inferior. And then seriously, it's like crazy. Like Portuguese, like Spanish are idiots. And the Spaniards are like, Portuguese, oh my God, inferior. It's like we're neighbors. We're all white. We all speak Latin, but we all hate each other's guts.
It's very sad. It's all very sad.
It is sad.
It's all very sad. I mean, it's very sad too that they're having they're reproducing. Well, they're having children. That's what's sad about it. If I was her, even if it's just me and Harry, I could take that old broad on. You know what I'm saying?
But think about.
But when you got a baby, they got their babies. That's a different story. If you're planning, if you're having children and everything, because if you're not from that pure British white ass family, you will never be accepted. They wouldn't even give her a job. They told her, you better go on down there and go back to Hollywood and keep your job, girl. Okay, right there's a clue. Without you having any kind of, we're not giving you anything. You're not getting security. We're not giving you a job.
They don't have a choice.
Make sure you stay in your acting career. I mean, come on, how many hints you need?
And also, no, but it's a thing I always try to tell people that hate that fought white people, for example, hate it. We are tribes. Why are we so violent and racist? Because we're tribal. We've always been. We come from barbarian tribes. We're not the Romans and the Greeks, and we projected this behavior onto nations that are not tribes. When they say Native American tribes, they're not tribes. They're nations. They had cities. And the cities were moving. That's how good they were. They could, rebuild their cities elsewhere, Mississippi, everywhere. We have pyramids in the middle of Mexico and everywhere in South America and even North America. They just disappear. So civilizations existed, but the tribes, the barbarians, dirty, full of diseases that collapsed an empire and replaced it entirely. Germanic tribes. My ancestors, the guys who invaded the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire had black emperors for 70 years. Black. But nobody saw a problem. When you look at Byzantium, the Eastern Roman Empire, 7th century, their churches, Jesus Christ and Mary are black. They were white emperors, but they knew, of course, they're black. They're from that place. Everybody's black over there. How could they be white? The guys had common sense. Everything changed when barbarians took over because we're like, we're all white. White is good. We come from the great north. we're monkeys from the north. We are we actually, racism, when you think about it from white people, is self-loathing projected onto others who are innocent. We weren't. Look, the Chinese didn't try to conquer America. They knew it was there. Why? They didn't need it. Europeans were miserable at home. We didn't. One thing we know about Europe is the reason why we colonized is we had overpopulation. We had a function in society, miserable. You're either, when your first son takes the land, second son becomes a priest, and first son goes to war. The fourth and fifth son, good luck. So overpopulation, lots of people going from crime to crime. So what did we find? A solution: put them on boats and throw them into America and all over the world, and they'll claim the land for us. it's really because Europe, I mean, I lived in Europe for years. It's beautiful, lots of beautiful art, but people are miserable. You know, they live with this pressure of the past and this structure of society that's, you know, Europeans are not funny people. What I'm saying is that Europe is making everybody pay the price of their misery. And they've been doing that for 5 centuries now.
That sounds like the United States of America. That doesn't sound.
Oh, that's our greatest product. We're very proud. We didn't think we could get a country that dumb to function. Australia was a good candidate.
Anyways, I wish Meghan and Harry luck. I'm sure they'll be fine.
I wish her to run the fuck away with her children from even him. Run away. Do not look back. Say goodbye. Harry needs to deal with his problems with his brother, father, Camilla, Elizabeth II, and that's it. I feel she's been taken hostage of a family problem that's older than her. You know what I mean?
And you know what? It's food for thought for sure.
Because why is Harry so innocent looking and always coming after the fact? You know what I mean? It looks odd. I don't like the way he behaves. I'm sorry. I used to like the guy, but now I'm like, I feel Meghan is a victim. Yeah. And I know she should have, you know, known that. But if I had been Harry, I would have said, Meghan, you got to realize my family, they're fucked up.
Right.
If you marry me, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to be honest with you.
Right. You know? And that for me would have been the right thing to do, regardless of what she didn't know. You need to be upfront. Your life is going to change from that day on. You will never know the Meghan that you knew before, because this is what's going to happen. And to me, if I love someone, I would be very clear about that. Now, let's think about this again, Meghan. You think on that? Let me know how you're feeling about it. Before, it's like anything else you discuss before you get married, whether you have children, finances, all those things.
And there's no way. Meghan had a life before she met Harry.
Yeah,
she sure did.
I just think there's no way for somebody like that to accommodate themselves to what the royals expect of you. If you're raised in that tradition,
that's what I just told.
There's an outside world.
That's what I said. That's why I said, Michelle. Yeah. What could you be? You have to be expecting some really different stuff. Like I would going up to another social class. I'm marrying a billionaire. I can expect some huge social changes. I may not be no longer walking around here talking about I'm going to make a homemade pizza. You know why? Because that kitchen is gorgeous, but that billionaire, you're not allowed the kitchen because I got 5 or 6 cooks. And if I say to him, I don't want those cooks, he's like, oh, hell to the no. This is how it's done. You're going to have those cooks. I'm just saying there's certain things that you just would expect. Come on. You're not going to be expected to live that. They're crazy.
But I'm saying that the list that gets created in our heads of what those expectations are is individualized.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have the exact same expectations as you. Meghan is not going to have the exact same expectations as me. So I don't think that she's saying she didn't have any expectations. She just may not have had ones that would have occurred to you or would have occurred to me. She had what occurred to Meghan.
And also, remember, the royal family is really good. The royal family is really good to pretend they're cool.
I agree with Rick that there should have been an educational process
to give her a choice.
Which they probably do for everybody else. But because this was a Black woman coming into the scene, she didn't get the
and that's
they sent her to fail.
And that's what I'm saying. Being a Black woman coming to all white royal family, I would suspect, even if they said they didn't have any racial problems, I would suspect
India.
Well,
I'm just saying hypothetically that it's a trade-off. It's definitely a trade-off. You traded love off.
But all Black people's experience is not the same. Until Harry came onto the camera, I'm looking at Meghan's skin next to Oprah's, and I wasn't really sure Meghan was Black. And then Harry came out, and next to Harry look black.
Irish
but
leprechaun.
next
He's
to
not Irish.
Oprah,
Don't say I said that. They're gonna kill me.
well, yeah, Harry looked like he got a little something going on.
Top of the morning.
I didn't notice it.
What I'm saying, not all black people are having the same experience as black people. And a lot of it does have to do with how much melanin we have in our skin, what social class in the black world you travel in. And so, where I may have had certain expectations of, like I saw a picture today of Megan and her mother. Her mother's got beautiful, kinky hair like mine. Long, clearly a black woman. She may have even been about my color or your color, I'm not sure, but clearly a black woman. Megan is, clearly mixed, and so that alone means you're living in a different world.
But also,
you're not.
Well, unfortunately, no matter
family.
what world you're living in, she might be, because she is a fair-skinned black person, although her roots were not straight. She might be a fair-skinned black person, but unfortunately, how a lot of folks think, and it's unfortunate, you are black. When you step into their all-white
was
world.
black, despite
you can
not
think what
being
you want to think, but
fully black.
when you step into that all-white world, you are black.
Obama's father was black, but his mother was white, and nobody talks about
what white people.
Lady Di, yeah.
I'm not talking about what white people perceive or how they treat
the Nazis.
Black people. I'm talking about the world that black people live in, the color line that goes on in the black community.
Oh yeah,
we have different worlds and experiences here.
But the Nazis had a term for that. It's the one blood drop theory. One drop of blood from the Jews and you're corrupt.
Yeah.
Which is fun because when you see a Nazi getting a genetic test, that happened in America like 10 years ago. There was this white supremacist who was like, I'm pure. He took a test. You're 25% black. And the horrible story is that instead of realizing...
I think, Rick, that's one of the rules that they got from the United States studying American slavery.
Yeah, but it's because nobody's pure.
They came here
because that doesn't exist.
And they came here and studied U.S. laws for a lot of what went into the Nazi program.
The Nazis liked the KKK. They found they were fun.
Yeah.
And by the way, very few Americans look at images we know in Europe. Nazis, when they were doing those crazy parades, were riding horses with a white cape and the Nazi symbol, like the KKK. They were like, yeah, sure, we like that, we dig that. That's why they thought Americans would never fight them.
There's a storyline.
And if it weren't for Roosevelt.
There's a storyline in The Crown, and I guess this show is like historical fiction.
There's a lot of actual facts. So it's impressive. The research
so there's a storyline about Queen Elizabeth's uncle David, who is the one that abdicated the throne.
Yeah, the traitor.
Yeah.
No, we should have killed him.
For the woman, supposedly he loved and all of that. But there's a point at which, after he's been kind of banned from the country for a couple of decades, he's looking for work, and ex-king is looking for work, which is not a good look, right? But he finally gets the government to say that they would approve certain jobs for him, and so he goes to Queen Elizabeth to get her permission, and it's right at a point when something called the Marburg files, the Marburg files, have been identified. Now, of course, I hear Marburg and I'm thinking the Marburg virus, right?
No. That's Nazi related.
This is Nazi related stuff. So apparently, King David, Queen Elizabeth's uncle, was consorting with Hitler. Now, David says this was all happening before the world knew how Hitler was, all the shit Hitler was going to do.
Really? He hadn't read Mein Kampf? Come on.
Right.
She must have hated him. But showing it in a royal way, which is, oh, sure, you're allowed to be a shoe shiner.
She wouldn't even grant him that. Good. She was like, no, go back to whatever that country you're living in.
Go back to Germany, where you come from.
But what I don't understand is her husband, Philip.
He's a piece of, sorry.
But he also has these Nazi connections going on in his family background.
Well, they're all connected. Everybody's kind of intersected. It's not like you wouldn't expect that they're all connected. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny or anything, but I mean, really, you had them at one point marrying their sisters and their aunts to make sure they kept that money in the family. Mm-hmm. So no, you can imagine that they're all connected and related. So if you look in their background, you'll find all that shit back there because they're all connected and related. That's how they have these monarchies. That's why they ruled the world, because they made sure that they kept that tight, which is another reason why Meghan, poor baby, she should take her kids and get them moving.
And she should have studied one thing, Meghan.
I would get moving.
What are daughters used for in royalty, in European royalty?
I'm leaving you all. Huh?
What are women used in European royalty for? Always been. Not just for money. Okay, we've been fighting for 50 years. Yeah. We need to save face, both of us. Yeah. Because we're not winning, nor are we losing. Everybody's tired. Yeah. We killed all the knights. We burned all the cities. And it's our cities. And we're cousins. Yeah. What if I give you my daughter? You marry her.
Boom.
This means your son inherits my land if I get a daughter. Good.
There you go.
Reverse, yeah. And what happens if we have two sons? Another war. Okay, the 30 years peace. Okay, cool. Women were unfortunately currency, and they've always been. Royalty as well as poor women share one thing in common. They've been used as currency.
And the first, what they're really concerned about is reproducing. They're having that child. If you notice with the royal families, when you get married,
well, no, it's not just
that baby out. When is that next child coming? Oh, you got a boy, you can hold up.
It's not just that. So reproducing and having a child that survives beyond. So you need to survive until the child is old enough. Because when you die and the child is 7, of course you will be king. Oh, look, a pond.
Right.
The prince died. Oh my God, who will be king? I think I'm the next in line.
and that's scary.
How many times did that happen in history?
That's scary because that's the first thing you think about. It seems like the only thing the women that are good for that marry into these families is hurry up and have those children. That's the first thing on their mind. Get them babies out. That royal mother said tonight, Harry, baby.
Louis XIII and Louis XVI, so 2 different kings. Louis XIII was well known to be homosexual. And one day, his lover betrayed him and went with some rebels. So he hung him. And then the famous phrase in France is that he took, how do you call a cooker to cook meat, and show it to his cooks and said, his soul is as dark as his butt. So our kings were poets, but Louis XIII, for a while, people were always going after him because, like, hey, it's been 5 years, no children. Yeah, he's not having sex with Anne of Austria. Yeah, he's not. And Anne of Austria, who realized her husband was gay, also realized, wait. We can't lose power because they're going to try to kill him and take over. So I'm going to pretend I come from a cult that prohibits sex. We call that in France. So she became all dark to support her husband, but then they got a child. One child, Louis XIV, who would become the worst tyrant and also the greatest king of France. Very strange. But what I'm saying is that Louis XVI was not very interested in sex, and Marie Antoinette was more interested in other guys.
I read that story. That was interesting. That's
interesting. Other guys. So Louis the 16th, people were telling him, Your Majesty, you need to have children. And he got them late, but for a while, people were like, maybe we should, poison him. He won't have any, or kill Marie Antoinette. We don't need, it's royalty. And Louis the 14th was so, so now Elizabeth II is the oldest crown head in history. And second or third is Louis the 14th, fourth. I think there's a Chinese emperor and stuff. Louis the 14th reigned for 75 years on France. He built Versailles, he did several wars, etc. But the thing is that he buried his sons and grandsons and great-grandsons. So the only inheritors, so he had sex with a ton of other women, had bastard sons, and Louis the 15th is actually a bastard son. And the thing that we love about is that when he was dying, Louis the 14th, that's 80, he took the poor Louis 15, who was just 7, take, you will be king. And then he was like, don't touch my castle, and became insane and tried to struck him, saying, you're not allowed to tamper with the castle I built. Because he was becoming insane. But the poor child grew up to become the king, Louis XV. But what I'm saying is that royalty has always been a horrible institution, whatever the country. And in Japan.
Earlier, Rick, you said that why is it that we only talk about the British kings and queens and not the monarchies in these other European countries? What was the point you were making there?
Oh, is that the other countries' kings and queens understand their function is a state function. In England, they're the ones who try to sound cool. They're the ones trying to make money out of all the entertainment industry and stuff. They're the ones promoting themselves as glamour. Not Belgium, not Norway, not Sweden, not Denmark, not Bahrain, not Japan. Big empire, Japan. Why? Because they know their place. In England, they're the ones who, and you know who started all of that? Elizabeth herself. In the 1940s, during the war, she went out, dressed as a little nurse, to go into the Blitz and help wounded people. But of course, she was overprotected. It was not a normal nurse. It was a propaganda fix. She started the whole, look at me through cameras. Royalty had never done that. Hirohito, the Japanese emperor, when he appeared on camera, people collapsed in Japan. They were like, this is a living god and he's a human? They were devastated. And the emperor knew that when they heard his voice and saw his face, what, he's a guy? He's not the living son? And about Japan, before you leave, to show you how people are aware in the old world of what royalty is, when in 92 I was there, they found a wife for the future emperor. She was a daughter of Zaibatsu, which is a mega corporation in Japan. It could be Honda, I don't remember. And she was reading a letter, sitting, crying, all of her tears. I am very honored to marry that man. She was crying tears of death. She knew her life was over. She was a 25-year-old beautiful Japanese woman who had just learned from her father that the emperor had chosen her to become empress, which means now I will live like that all day. Do this. Wake up, take tea. Do this for 7 hours. Present myself to the Buddha. Present myself to the monks. A horrible life. She knew what it meant.
I'd have been crying too.
Me too. But
and he was ugly, by the way. And you know,
the good news is that my name is Venita, and I ain't gonna never have to deal with none of that stuff.
But just, you know what? You're the end of the story. None of it. He never had children. He's sterile. He's the one who can't have children. So the Constitution was amended 10 years ago. She is now empress.
Wow.
Wow.
Emperor of Japan. They had to, because there's no inheritor. There's
no males.
She is now in charge.
Wow.
Well, not, had the Constitution's different, but it's a huge revenge. And my mother always said that's the punishment for that family's crime during the war, and for forcing that poor girl to marry that ugly guy. He's very ugly, by the way.
Oh, he wasn't even good looking.
As the head of the empress.
Michelle. He had, that's another thing too. If I'm going to go into the royal family, at least let me have a husband 6'2", 240, buffed, and then maybe I could deal with the royalty, other stuff.
You're talking about kings as they were made during the ancient times. You look at Roman emperors,
Yeah,
They
they're
were
fine.
buffed
They
because
was,
they were at war all the time.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie about that though, Michelle.
Hello.
You know, we missed the boat because Roman emperors they were buffed.
Seriously, because
Yeah.
also because they had to go ninja arts in a way, because when they were sleeping, they were like, somebody's going to try to kill me tonight. You know, like in Rome, there's no, you don't inherit. You know how you get to become emperor? You kill the other emperor. And they said that means the gods want you to be emperor because you succeeded. Aha. And the only dynasty in Rome, pseudo dynasty that survived, are two dynasties that prove that Romans weren't racist. The Gauls, the Gaulish dynasty, which was, for them, Gauls were the worst enemy ever. It's like Germans becoming president of France. And the, what was the name of, the four black Roman emperors at the height of the empire. Not at, the low tide was different emperors, but at the height, Trajan and all these guys are black. You look at their busts, they have curly hair, they have the features of a black man, and in Rome, nobody thought it was odd. It was like, yeah, he's the best warrior. Yeah, we're gonna take the best. That's why they ruled for so long, because they were pragmatic. The roads are still standing in Europe. Their roads in France, we have public water through their aqueducts. It's still working. 2,500 years later, they're still like, oh, these guys were good.
Well, Rick, one thing we know for sure, we've lost a lot of brain cells.
And the Romans, when they conquered the land, look at what they did. So they genocided the Gauls, like the ancestors of, not the Franks, but they went really haywire, like Caesar. He did that. As soon as the campaign is over, immediately they build massive cities and put in charge people from the land. Say, okay, here's the thing. Now starts what we call the career. It comes from the Roman term career, actually, which means you start in the military low grade. Every 2 years you move forward, and at one point you become general, which means technically you can kill an emperor. So you can become emperor. Oh, and it worked. Integration. And here's what they told them: to only Romans pay taxes. Everybody who's not a Roman citizen who's in other cities of the empire don't pay taxes. This is what had them collapse, because at one point, like, we're too big for just 1 million Romans to put the money in, because Rome was 1 million people and they were the only ones paying taxes. So the black emperor, by the way, I forgot his name, one of them, he thought about an idea. Wait, now everybody's a citizen. Look, progress. Yay. Wait, what? We're paying taxes? It was a trick, like in the 1st century. Rome is incredible, and people should really study it. It's not a European civilization. It's a Mediterranean civilization with the races of all of Africa, Asia, and Europe meeting in one crazy place that worked for 500 years perfectly well, with a lot of civil wars, but yeah.
Well, thank you for that history lesson. I learned something new every time we meet. I learn a lot of new stuff every time we meet.
What was his name? God, that.
Meanwhile, excuse me for 1 second, Michelle. Thursday will be fine.
So Thursday, March 25th.
Yes, that will be fine.
Our last gathering. Okay. But meanwhile, we'll meet next week. So, all right, Rick. I know you're gonna find out. But we should do some of our own research, Venita. We should know who the black Roman emperors were.
So their names are
cool. I'm definitely gonna look into that, because I know they was buffed.
Septimus Severus,